Hi guys, and welcome to this episode called Progress Not Perfection. So if you're an accountant that are trying to do a bit more consulting work with your clients, or perhaps you're a financial advisor that wants to work closer with professionals, or maybe you're a lawyer that wants to do, again, more consulting work, but you're struggling to implement the changes that you know you need to make, then this video is for you. It's called Progress Not Perfection because it's about getting you to move forward, to do the things that you've wanted to do, planned to do, but have failed to implement. So there's three key things we need to focus on. First of all, we need to remove the blockage, don't increase the pressure. Remove the blockage, don't increase the pressure. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The next thing we need to do is make a promise and give permission. Make a promise and give permission. And the third thing is we need to make our self-talk emotive. We need to make our self-talk emotive. So let's go right back to the beginning. Removing the blockage rather than increasing the pressure. So what causes internal pressure? Most often the way that we attempt to motivate ourselves is we use what we call a commitment device. And a commitment device is when we say to ourselves something like, if I train really hard this week, if I make sure that I do all my runs and really pay attention to my diet, then on Friday I can go out and have beers and pizza with the boys. So if I do this, I'll reward myself with that. But that commitment device is getting leverage on myself for the now, but it's about a behavior that's going to happen in the future. So if I do this, then I get that. Now, one of the problems about the commitment device is that a couple of days down the track, when it comes time to actually put the running shoes on and get out in the rain, my current position, when I'm now about to do the run, I don't want the pain. So the commitment device rarely works, because you're trying to make a deal between the now that's motivated and then the unmotivated you of the future. So rather than using the commitment device, you need to make sure that the language you use when you're setting your goal is exactly the same as what we'll use carrying on. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. One of the things that commitment devices also generate is they tend to generate, if you follow through or you fail to follow through, is they generate guilt or shame. And that is an inward reflection. As an emotion, it's a demotivator, and it rarely changes a behavior. So guilt and shame are not good drivers for positive change, and generally that's what comes out of commitment device. If I do this, I get that. If I don't do this, and so on. We're trying to avoid those. So that's what I mean by don't increase the pressure. Identify the blockage is, we know there are 5 key things that contribute to our output. The first is what we know. The second is our skill, so that's knowledge that's been converted through practice. The third thing is our resource. Could be cash, could be tools, could be equipment. The fourth is our environment, making sure that our internal and external environment is consistent with the change we're trying to make. And the last is attitude. Now, the interesting thing around attitude is that attitudes follow behavior, not the other way around. We do what we call self-attribution. So we look and find ourselves doing the things that are consistent with what we want, that we feel good about ourselves. That's how we build our self-esteem. If we see ourselves doing the poor behaviors, we begin to attribute the poor self-image. So we need to catch ourselves making change, which is why this video is called Progress Not Perfection. If we catch ourselves making progress, we're more likely to be energized to want to carry on. So that's what I mean by remove the blockage rather than increase the pressure. Remove the blockage. Which is it? Is it something, are you struggling to fulfill it because you don't know it, you haven't converted it to skill, you don't have the tools, the environment's not conducive, or your attitude, or a combination of all 5? So identify the blockage and work to remove that. Don't increase the pressure. The next thing was, remember I said, make a promise and give permission. So the promise is you have to promise to start. You have to promise to get underway. And that means going to your diary and putting a start date in there. The other thing is that you need to promise to yourself that you get your thoughts in order, but that they won't be perfect. All too often we're like, when I've got everything organized, then I'll put it in play. Well, any major achievement, anything of any notoriety, any major invention has always had a period of trial and error and testing. And so it is with our professional development. We have to accept along the way that we're going to make mistakes. And that's the last bit. Remember, Promise to get started, promise to get your thoughts in order, and then give permission to yourself to make mistakes along the way. Again, we can manage those mistakes, we can mitigate them, but ultimately you will make mistakes as you go. So just make sure they're small ones and make sure that you keep yourself moving. The last bit is the self-talk. And the easy way to remember self-talk is call out the ghosts and win in the end. Call out the ghosts, then win in the end. Scientists have proven that you've got a far better opportunity of using your positive self-talk if you actually acknowledge the difficulty that's about to come before you. So taking the time to acknowledge how difficult something's going to be and then seeing yourself complete it is far more powerful than only focusing on the positives, because we know inevitably the brain will notice the negatives. So let me give you an example, and before I do this, let me apologize for my language. Remember I talked about making your self-talk emotive. Think of the word emotive or motive. Motive is to cause somebody to act or do a certain thing. So we need to emotionally get ourselves to take motion and be emotive. So we've got to use language that does that for ourselves. So an example of it would be, say I'm about to run a marathon. Calling out the ghosts and then winning in the end would mean I might say to myself something like, and as I say, I apologise for language, but I might say something like, this is really going to suck. This is going to hurt. My legs are going to hurt. My calves are going to hurt. My ankles, my hips, my joints, my lungs are going to scream. This is going to suck. All the way through this marathon will be pain. But I know that all I need to do anytime I think of quitting is I will focus on one foot in the other, one foot in front of the other, and I will keep on going. I will complete this marathon because it matters to me, because I'll look back and know that I've set a goal and I've achieved it. It's what makes me stronger, knowing I can do strong things. So that's an example of using emotive self-talk. But remember I talked about the commitment device, the difference between having it now and if I do this then I get it later. Well, the positive self-talk, calling out the ghosts and then winning in the end, is admitting the difficulty right from outset. It's admitting the toughness along the way, and it's making the action or the thought process consistent with the now as well as in the future. So there you have it. Remove the blockage, don't increase the pressure, make a promise, then give permission, and use emotive self-talk. Good luck, all the best.